what is this called again? It's a CPSC.gov, the Consumer Protection Safety. It's a government agency. There were 50 non-fire CO2 poisoning deaths reported in 2020 related to out of over 9 million water heaters sold. In 2022, there were 108 domestic water heater related incidents reported to the Consumer Product Safety Commission. Only 2 of these incidents actually involve true mechanical pressure explosions. And these things don't happen from new installations. You know, these fears of, you know, the water heater, the homeowner that swaps out their water heater, calls a guy and they just run out, grab a new 40-gallon water heater and put it in for them. These failures really come 10 years down the road when the unit needs to be replaced and these pressure relief valves have gone bad. Some more things, annual hospital admissions. I mean, everything is, I mean, on 9.2 million units that are installed, the risk of swapping out a water heater is exceptionally low. And I know I drive around my neighborhood and it seems like once a month there's a water heater sitting at the curb. And it's just a normal part of owning a home. In fact, I would say one of the rights of owning a home should be the right to pick up a hammer, pick up a wrench, and repair your home when it needs to be repaired. We do not have furnaces and HVAC on here, but I did take water heaters off. And let's open that for discussion.
I think what Nick is saying, he's proposing these changes, and that's the motion he's going to make later, folks. So if you object to him removing it, speak now, because otherwise we'll have to go back.
And I'd like to make these amendments between this meeting and the next meeting, so next meeting we can be efficient.
Yeah, we're on discussion items, not action items.
Right. I just meant not a motion, but if anybody would like to discuss before I move on to the next one.
For electric water heaters, no problem, right? If that's because there's no exhaust. So you're saying same? So you're saying the same BTU, same capacity, and same reusing existing vent, essentially. There, you get a new little disc hood thing because it comes with the water heater. Okay.
My question relates to furnaces, actually. I've never gotten a permit for a furnace. I've never had anyone suggest that I would get a permit for a furnace. I always hired a qualified HVAC contractor to install the furnace, and if I had any challenges, I dealt with that as a contractor, right? So I never expected a municipality to weigh in on whether my furnace contractor was qualified or not. They go through significant training, all the different trades. HVAC seems to be one of the most heavily regulated. So I'm curious as to why we would anticipate a permit for furnace. It's also potentially an inconvenience, right? Does the person going to get the permit after the furnace went out? Or, you know, how is that going to work? Why would we have that included?
The building code does allow you to do emergency repairs and get a permit the next day. It's already built into the code.
Yeah, I agree with you, Janet. That
I'm going to trust my HVAC guy.
And I think that the part that really sticks out from what you said is that you're dealing with the contractor. In what instance would you have an issue with something that your contractor did and called the village? You know, if you had a furnace installed improperly, it was the wrong size, anything, would you ever think to call the village and say, hey, this happened, why weren't you out here checking my furnace? And
I would call the contractor.
You would call the contractor. And likely, especially in Campton Hills, With the value of the homes, folks are going to shop around and get a reputable contractor. I don't know anybody who...
I agree with that, although that kind of bleeds in a little bit to the point made earlier about the relatively high home value, single-family home nature of the community and all of that, which is what we have today, right? And so just pushing a little bit on the other side of this, maybe more what a viewpoint that Seth would appreciate, what the overall behavior of our community today may not be what we have 10 years from now, right? So I'm not saying we should be trying to figure out what people are going to do 10 years from now, but it could change. And we could find that there are people that are deciding to build for bedrooms in their basements or something. I don't think that's happening, but I guess I'd like to acknowledge at least that possibility. Maybe as we go through this, so far this is sound like a really good clarification to me.
For the trick bag on that, I think, in an altruistic sense, yes. Part of the trick bag, or maybe not trick bag, is a payment clause of the contractor is if they don't pass the final inspection, you don't have to pay them. That's a standard clause for agreements. So, I mean, that's a level of protection for the resident. If somebody comes out and says, no, they did this wrong, don't pay them, we're not going to pass final, you don't have to pay them. And then that gives the contractor, again, we're even if it's a great super contractor, but if they're intensely busy, then there's an incentive in there, I'm not going to pay you until you come get your final and fix the thing that's wrong, which I, as a homeowner, may or may not have known was the thing that's wrong. So, somewhere in there, I don't know if I want to go too far away from that safety or fallback from a owner's perspective. So I think about that a little more.
And I will say the reason I did not have furnace and AC included in this is because the two are typically a pair. And with Freon and the refrigerants, that was the part of furnaces and ACs that I thought made the most sense to keep as a permitted and inspected item. It is very similar. It would fall under all the same criteria, same size, same shape, same BTUs, like a water heater would. But there are some more specialized things that I don't think a homeowner could pull off, or that a handy person could pull off. I think that there is some legitimate public safety and health things with the refrigerants and making sure that all of that is handled properly. That was my reasoning behind the AC.
So I'd like to hear more of what Seth's comments that he may have regarding this. I look at it as everything's a safety issue, and that's the way I look at it. That's my own opinion, but yeah, I'd like to hear what Seth has to say.
I'd like to hear the rest of Nick's presentation.
Why? Oh, no, we'll go back to Nick. I just wanted to hear if Seth has a comment on some of these.
Yeah, thank you.
Uh-huh.
I appreciate that, Barbara. We'll listen to the rest of what Nick's proposals are. I would just respectfully like to disagree with the elimination of the permit for these things, just from a purely life safety standpoint. And I know you had some statistics about the number of deaths out of 9 million water heaters, but what if that one of those 50 was your relative or your, it's easy to just say the statistics, but the reason that those statistics are so low is because there are permits and inspections. So I can't not say that. I don't want to argue, I don't want to, be obstinate in any of this. I have no dog in the fight if you want to require permits or not. I think that's your call, but I can't say that I agree with that. So if you want specific opinions on each item that, we're talking about eliminating, if it's the water heater, for example, I gave the reasons. You've got gas piping, you could have a gas leak, carbon monoxide spillage. People put, they close the end of the discharge tube on the water heater, which can cause the water heater to build up and, you know, have hot water shooting out of the side of it. I mean, there's just, these seem like things that are no-brainers, but people do a lot of stuff themselves. Contractors do take shortcuts. It's just the low cost of it for verification, just, it seems like a no-brainer to me, and I'm not trying to be insulting in any way, shape, or form. Please don't take it that way, because I do get where you're coming from. A man's home is his castle, as the saying goes. That is something I have heard a lot over the years, and I get that, and I respect that, but there are just certain things that should have some oversight and protections for the homeowner. So I don't want to sound like I'm preaching to you guys. I probably do sound like I'm preaching to you, but I just, it's the industry I'm in. It's the reason I'm in it is to protect people. So that's what I feel like sharing. So Barbara, do you have any other specific questions?
No, we'll just have Nick, you want to finish your list? Nick?
Yeah, absolutely, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Seth. So with the water heaters, just a final thing, it is very popular right now for people doing these tankless water heaters or to put in a bigger unit. That would all require a permit. Nothing changed there. The next item is electrical, a panel replacement only, same amperage. So it's something that's happened to me in a previous home, ran out of space, had a 100 amp panel, had 20 spaces, just needed more space. So having an electrician come in and put in a new electrical panel, not doing any other changes, just putting in a larger, same amperage panel.
And you're saying no permit for that?
Correct. Now, if you were putting in a new electrical panel and changing from 100 to 200 amps, or you were putting in a new charger for your Tesla, or a new electric water heater, used to be gas, that would all require a permit. That would all need to be inspected. That's all new stuff. But with the same amperage, the lines coming into the house, it all stays the same. The next item, plumbing and irrigation, replacing in-kind components. New irrigation systems would continue to require a permit, especially because of backflow prevention. But as far as just doing maintenance, replacing, if it's already there, no permit would be required.
I just was going to say the thing that everybody said. I mean, to the point, if you're on well and septic, I think it's no permit required. Guaranteed. If you're on well and septic, it's your own, right? Question is, does Wasco wish us to help them on, to your point, on a backflow preventer if you're connected to their system? I think they would. It is required as state law if you're connected to public water supply. But it's like the fire district, they can enforce their own thing because they're a separate entity, right? But you're trying to be one stop for the resident, right? So would we just comport with what they want?
Well, I think the state does, I think Jan said, the state does on a public system, backflow preventers are required to be inspected.
I would even assume on the well that they are, but I mean, it's still a public water source. No, they're not.
They're not.
We could be as dumb as we want. But this would be a repair or replace. So this would be.
Although people on well generally don't irrigate, just saying.
True enough, but it's on our matrix, so.
True.
Yeah.
So if we could add that caveat, if you're on a public system, you've got to have inspection.
On new systems or on repair and replace? So I'm only talking about repair and replace. It's already there, it's already been installed, inspected.
I think a public system, it has to be inspected, any
Okay.
kind of work.
Okay, we can make that edit. Totally makes sense.
Because your mistake at your house might endanger the guy 2 doors down.
Very good.
Not likely, but could.
This is another one that I don't even think it exists really anymore, because everybody has their roof paid for by an insurance company, it seems like. But adding a second asphalt layer is allowed. In the International Building Code, there's a 2-layer limit. It is a cost-effective way to keep it, it's a way to keep costs down on a new roof. If there was a new layer added, the permit would be eliminated, adding a second layer. Again, I don't even think it exists anymore. I don't know anybody who's done it. Let's see. Exterior finishes, so replacing in kind your siding or gutters. Vinyl siding off, vinyl siding on. Wood siding off, wood siding on. 6-inch gutters off, 6-inch gutters on. The permit would not be required. The next one, I included an attachment for window and door replacement of the same size. So not changing the opening, taking a window out, putting a new window in. In 2024, Illinois has an energy code, and part of that energy code is that the village is required to enforce the energy code. And typically it is done through an inspection, but the energy code doesn't specify how a village enforces the energy code. So the document gives an outline, my suggested outline, for windows, giving homeowners the information that they need to go out and purchase windows. I think you'd really have to shop out of state to get a window that didn't comply. But the enforcement part of this, and I can go through I can talk more about this if you like, but the enforcement part is that the homeowner would maintain a record of the window, and if asked by the village, could provide the documentation that the window meets these energy standards. So
Here, I think Nick is on to something that the state mandates it. That's, in your experience, that mandate, how's it been interpreted? Would we be the first one to say self-regulated by the homeowner's records? Do you know anybody else that, because I think Nick's on to the legal aspect of it's mandated, but
It basically says if you issue permits, you have to enforce it.
Yeah.
For any jurisdiction that issues permits. Yeah, they don't tell you how to enforce it, but when you adopt the code, the state energy code, essentially it has permits in there, inspections in there, and so the code actually prescribes what you're supposed to do. So the state didn't say what you're supposed to do, but the code says what you're supposed to do.
the international does, or?
Yeah, this is the international, the international code is adopted by the state of Illinois.
Yeah.
And then Illinois made a few amendments to the international code, and now they call it the Illinois Energy Conservation Code. No different than what most other states do. So window replacements before the energy code, I did used to see some towns not require permits for window replacements. Once the energy code became a state mandate this is going back probably in 2012, maybe, I can't remember the year exactly, but when the state law came out, it was like, how else would you enforce it if you didn't require permits for it? So I haven't seen any towns now exempt windows from permits. And the energy code made towns start doing it, if anything, which, you know, I think more importantly are the egress requirements of the window myself, because yeah, it's almost impossible to buy a window that's not energy efficient nowadays. So, yeah, that's my thought.
That's probably, I think, where I would diverge a little bit. I think a door is fine, door replacement like for like, I think it's fine. There's a trick with the window replacements, because if you get the vinyl in replacements, they're automatically smaller size, And again, altruistically speaking, contractors do what they're supposed to, but sometimes they think that the caulk is actually the thing that's supposed to hold the window in place, which it's not. So, to my comment earlier about what level are we doing to help the, say, neophyte homeowner to at least have them go through a final inspection to show that they actually did the replacements properly, as opposed to them, being taken for a ride and then having a iffy product. Now, again, the door, I think the door has to fit in the jamb, so I mean, I'm not too worried about that. They don't generally glue doors into place, but replacement windows, especially vinyl replacement windows, those are notorious for just being shoved in to the point where they're not falling and the contractor's done. So I think I'd be a little still concerned about that.
Chairman, go ahead.
The issue of getting passing a final inspection has come up a couple of times, and I appreciate the concern about that. But my experience in very many building projects over a long time is that the things you care about, you're pretty much not going to see in a final inspection anyway. So things you care about are the things that you would have caught in an intermediate inspection, which we're not generally talking about in these kind of situations. So I'm not sure in the window example what you would see. It would depend on how good the sort of cosmetic craftsmanship was, perhaps, right? And it might not be clear to you what was done or not done underneath that vinyl, right? And so if we were to say that we wanted work of this nature to be inspected to make sure the contractor was doing it properly and doing it well, and if we really meant that, then we would need to roll back into the process, and we would want to get involved in intermediate inspections and these things, which I'm pretty sure we don't want to do, because those are the inspections that slow down projects. Those are the inspections that cost more money because the contractor has to show up to meet the inspector and all that kind of stuff. So I appreciate the idea of trying to give the homeowner some comfort that the final inspection passes. But for quite a lot of these things, I'm not sure the final inspection tells you the story. But one of the few that it seems that we talked about tonight where it does is the furnace, right? Because that's kind of all right out there for you to see, right? But in most of these other different categories, if we really wanted to kind of manage this and make sure that our residents were taken care of, then we would need to be getting involved quite a lot earlier, and I'm pretty sure we're not prepared to do that.
As soon as I get home, I'll let you know what I'm thinking. Emerson.
Mike, if I can just respond to a couple things you said. So with the vinyl replacement windows versus having like a nailing flange, I've replaced a lot of windows and I'm kind of familiar with them. I don't think you actually lose any inches with the vinyl replacement window. The thing goes in, it gets screwed to the jambs, it gets shimmed at the sill, and it gets caulked in and cased out.
Yeah, you're not doing E-sash replacement, though. If you do E-sash replacement, sometimes you lose, because you basically you reframe inside the sash.
Right.
That's what I was getting at.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we're talking potentially in a replacement window, the concern would be that we would lose some egress. Okay. Got it. Let me open this up. Bear with me, the Chromebook's very slow. All right, so I believe the next thing on the list was generators, replacing a generator, same size, no mechanical, electrical, plumbing changes, same size, amperage and load rating. New generators would still require a permit. Moving on, solar panel or component replacement, new, still requires a permit, doing repairs and replacements, would not. And that gets us to the end of the list.
Okay, one more thought, okay, that came up later. When we're talking about sheds, with derechos and all this other craziness going on here, what's our concern or not about, especially the smaller ones, having less weight and are more easily moved by wind, or, because then it goes off your property and hits the neighbor, then maybe we got a thing to think about, so.
Some pretty severe winds.
Yeah, I'm wondering if, and then, so maybe 300 is a good size, maybe 400 is a better size, I'm not sure about that, but, because the bigger the more weight it has, but, if we were to think about it as the concept of by acknowledging you don't need a permit, foregoing a permit on the language you're talking about. You're foregoing, you've checked the zoning, and that the small shed is properly anchored against the wind. I mean, if we can do it that way, I think maybe then we can show the general folks that yes, we trust our folks to a certain level, and these are the things that they agreed to by the fact that they knew they didn't get a permit. And if any of these things are found because it rolls onto the neighbor's property or something like, or it's too close to their property, then we can deal with it then.
One thing that I did not cover, that I need to go back to, because the permit was still required, with additions, currently our fee is $200 for additions. Additions are just almost as complicated as building a house. I mean, a foundation, walls, windows, roof, framing, finishes. I changed it to $500, but I really think that should be $1,000 for additions. We're really simplifying things, so general projects aren't going to have any fees, assuming that this, all gets approved. The additions, I think it's very reasonable to have $1,000 fee if you're doing that kind of work.
That's good.
All right, that's it?
I just have one more observation about fees in general, if I may. Some of these fees, not just the addition, but some of these fees just seem too low to me. In particular, the ones that are for commercial things. I think some of these fees may have been set some time ago, and are probably due for reevaluation. I think we can charge